As we are moving into the 21st century and students get used to being online, one of the key aspects that lecturers and teachers ask me as a teaching and learning specialist is, how do I create an online presence? And how do I get my students to engage? Sometimes we get so absorbed in the digital know-how of how to do things online that we forget to do the basics. So before you start, do not forget the basics and do not underestimate normal communication. What do I mean with this? Well, remember to have regular announcements on your learning management system. Send out regular emails. Remember also to add a view on the subject that you're teaching. Don't just send out a copy of the syllabus. Send a little bit of you to the students. Create groups like Telegram or WhatsApp if your LMS does not allow that. Remember the Poppy Act though, because you need to invite students now, not necessarily just add them. And then, very important, is to update your profile on your learning management system. On this learning management system profile should be details on when you are available and where people can contact you. Next, it's time to manage expectations. Before you start lecturing or teaching, it's important that you set the expectations of what the students can expect of the course and obviously of you as a lecturer. Now, I know it's difficult, but try and be a little bit creative. Send out an email introduction of yourself. Or why not send out a video introduction, inserting it into your email? Even better, what about an audio message on the WhatsApp group that you just created or somewhere on your learning management system? Tell your A students, but also your normal students, what they need to do to get an A in this module. And lastly, very importantly, do not forget to be yourself. Try and color yourself in, not just as the person standing in front there trying to teach them something, but as somebody who cares and somebody who wants to walk the journey with them. Good. Let's have an overview of what you need to do. Number one is remember weekly communication. Students like to hear from you. Have weekly engagements with them, announcements, give them an overview and a touch point. This can be in a variety of ways. You can send them an audio text, you can email them, or what about making a video? Show them that you care. Number two, bring in your personal perspective. Let them see you as a personal perspective of what the course may mean to them will really get them into giving their best, not only for the course, but for you. Thirdly, do not be boring. Vary your material. Do not always do the same thing every week. Vary your activities and your communication. This will show them that they can expect something creative and will put them on their back burner trying to see what comes next. So just the other day, I said to a lecturer, you know what, online classes are not so much different to face-to-face classes. And they did not agree. But if you think in terms of little learning experiences that your student is going to do, then it is really not so much different. You can still have any of the following. You can have discussions online, let them discuss cases, have debates, do revisions, analyze something, and have problem solving. It can still happen the way that you normally do it in a face-to-face class. Let me show you how. So how do we engage students online and in class, especially if you have to do both, hey? So this specific page will give you an idea of how you can do it. Think of your whole lesson as a lesson that is made up of certain learning experiences. Basically, you're chunking or scaffolding everything that you're teaching your students. What this specific lecture has done is to scaffold it even more by having before activities, during activities, which is basically when they have a face-to-face or an online class, and after activities. By having this approach, it's easy to look at these little learning experiences as focusing on a specific aspect of your lesson. So let's have a look. What this lecture has done is say asking the students to watch a video. After they watched the video, they had to fill in a quiz. The lecturer then had access to this, and when the students came into the class, she or he could know precisely how to engage the students by having a discussion or a debate about these aspects that they either understood or did not understand. She can also give them, or he can also give them, an analysis of a specific criteria to work on. Then either by doing it already in group work, she can split or he can split them into a group that works together. Now, online, this is done very easily by just breaking your students out into a group. Then have your students demonstrate a technique or a skill when they come back after their group work. Now the fun part comes. Give them a test and make this test interactive. Use wonderful techniques like Kahoot or Quizlet and get them to really participate in class. After you've done that, and as you see the answers coming in of the test, you can identify the gaps and then address it in the class. And then finally, when the class is over, whether it's face-to-face or online, let the students go home and create a learning artifact that they have to come with for the next session. So how can I incorporate technology to get students, especially now in this digital world, to engage more in class? Well, I would suggest to focus on one, incorporating it into your classroom, and once you understand and know how it works, then only start to focus on another one and try and integrate that into your classroom. Don't try and do everything at the same time. With that said, let's look at some of my favorites. If I want to get feedback from students, or even if I want to use something as an icebreaker, I use Kahoot a lot. I love Kahoot because Kahoot can create little quizzes for students, get feedback from a specific area, especially if I want to know what they know or don't know about a specific topic. It's a great way to get the whole class involved by putting them in groups or to have them basically participating as an individual. You can do this either before the class starts, after the class has ended, or like as a final game that you play, or even halfway through the class if you wanted them to show off their knowledge about a specific area. Quizzes is basically in the same category as Kahoot. So if you're not 100% sure if you like Kahoot, go and try quizzes. Then Slido. Slido is a wonderful tool to get feedback from your learners and to use it as an icebreaker right at the beginning of your class. I like to ask a question in the beginning. For instance, if I'm teaching a language, what is their favorite word of this language? And then obviously remember to put that profanity filter on. You know, students. Anyway, it's a lovely way to see the students getting interactive at the same time, and it's virtually up on the board and everybody is excited about what they can see. Mentimeter works almost the same as the other two, and I would suggest go and have a look at Mentimeter's specific features. Some people just totally love Mentimeter and some people don't. So I hope that you can choose one of these four options to use in class. Then let's move over to your presentations. What I normally try to do is not to kill my students with my presentations by putting in too many aspects of my teaching and texts and things like that. But I do want to give them a good feeling of what we're doing in class and why we're doing it. You can download wonderful presentations online for free. Why don't you visit SlidesGo as well as Slides Carnival? Both of these applications have wonderful ready-made PowerPoint presentations, which you can either use for a PowerPoint presentation, or if you're on Google Classroom, then you can import it there. Then, do not forget to create your own little Bitmoji. I just love these because it shows that I'm a teacher waving at them, and by putting it into a background that looks like my classroom with little hyperlinks where they can access specific things in my class, it feels to them, and remember we're talking about digital natives here, that they are basically in class although it's a virtual space. Try some of these. I'm sure it will really assist you in your online teaching. Almost all students in your class have a cell phone. So why don't you incorporate your cell phone into your day-to-day lessons by creating QR codes and letting students scan the QR codes to go to blogs or websites or even videos that you want them to watch? I use QR Code Monkey as my free QR code generator. So what do? I copy and paste the URL into QR Code Monkey, and it will then create a QR code for me. I use the snipping tool on my computer, and I then copy and paste it wherever I want to use it on my page. If you're uncertain how to do it, why don't you follow the red arrow and use your QR code to see how to basically incorporate a snipping tool into your classroom with a QR code. Another wonderful application that I think you can use, especially if you have a lot of videos that students are watching, but you really want to double check that they are watching it and that they are really listening to whatever the person is saying on the video, is Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle works like this. You basically link a video with Edpuzzle on YouTube or Vimeo, and you then create questions at specific places inside Edpuzzle. The student then needs to answer these questions, and it will give you feedback on who answered what and also which students engaged and which students did not engage. So it's a lovely tool to incorporate in your day-to-day YouTube video watching, or even if you just want to create some background information before a student comes into class the next time you see them. Some other tips that I have for you for engagement is to use equity pickers. A type of equity picker that you can use is a spinner. If you're not sure what other equity pickers there are, then why don't you Google it? The internet has a variety of them, especially for educators like you. So the spinners work like this. You will type in your students' names into the spinner and then tell the students that you are going to ask a question, and the spinner will decide who needs to answer it. That makes everybody sit up straight and listen to you. Next, do not underestimate group work, either in class or online. For instance, why don't you give a blog to students to read, split them in a group to answer a specific question in the blog, and come back and tell the others what they found. If you are really into educational technology, go and have a look at Classcraft. It's a wonderful application that you can include into your classwork on a day-to-day basis. The students even create their own avatar, and they get points when they are basically engaging with specific activities that you are doing in class. Activities. Very importantly, let's not look activities in the face and think that it's not important. Students nowadays are always engaging, doing games online, etc. And by giving them an activity, they are basically learning scaffolding and also creating new schemata inside their brains. And lastly, but not finally, here are 4 tips that you can read through on your own. But let me quickly remind you, try and engage with the student from the start by doing a very good introduction. Remember to set expectations and give credits for your class engagement. Be as visual as possible. Use GIFs, texts, and images. Remember your audience, they are visual, especially when they go home. And then, do not forget to be yourself, as fully as you feel comfortable with your students. Personalize everything that you do, and I'm sure that you will be a great lecturer or teacher in the classroom. Thank you for listening. I hope that your classroom will become a great place for interaction and activities. For more tips, why don't you watch this video by using the QR code scanner on your phone and watching it. Have a great day.